The Nier and Drakengard franchise was something that I believed to be concluded, a franchise that would be discussed in small communities due to its niche status. At least, that's what I used to think back in 2015, till a fateful E3 announcement started to change my mind, and would eventually lead to a title that allegedly saved Platinum Games from going under, would win an award at the Game Awards, and would captivate over 2 million people worldwide. I am, of course, talking about Nier Automata. So, where to begin? As I previously mentioned, Nier Automata was revealed to the public at E3 2015, which took all of us by surprise. When people used to say, what if we had a Yoko Taro and Platinum Games collaboration, it used to be precisely that, a what-if scenario. Longtime fans of a series that I've spoken to were used to the idea of getting interesting stories contained in a game which included, less than perfect gameplay and optimization. What kind of reality do we live in when we now have a member of the Drake and Nier family which has an interesting story with gameplay that actually complements it? It's just so strange to preemptively lower your expectations because you've been hurt before, and trust me, if mental wounds could show, only for it to completely blow you away and actually revitalize your hope for the video game industry. The fact that a Yoko Taro game had good gameplay revitalized my hope for the industry. Have I been transported to a bizarro world? Am I living on the cube? Okay, moving that stuff aside for a moment, I want to take the time to discuss what I'll be talking about in these videos. Now, for those of you who are new to my channel, first of all, welcome, hi. I've done a bunch of these videos in the past, specifically about the Drakengard and Nier universe. I'd suggest going to watch my Nier analysis videos before this one, and if you're able to put up with the early days of me attempting to find a decent way for me to implement comedy into my content, then by all means, watch the Drakengard ones. In all of these videos, I enjoy breaking down the stories from start to finish, as this not only serves as a way to refresh people's memories, but also gives you more context to the bits and pieces I go deeper into. For Automata, this will be no different. I'll also be bringing up my thoughts on the gameplay, certain boss encounters, the music, giving my thoughts on all of those subjects, making this a Nier Automata analysis review story recap. But as with my other videos, that wouldn't look catchy as a title, so fuck it, right? I'll be going into more detail about the gameplay in part 2, so for those of you wanting something a little more in depth when it comes to that, it's definitely on the way. At some point within this series, I feel I need to talk about the YoRHa stage play, as it not only serves as an introduction to characters who in the context of the game appear completely out of left field, but if you have this pre-existing knowledge of the stage play, it makes these reveals shocking. Now, as someone who's used to Yoko Taro's charming and much accepted bullshit, I wasn't that fazed of going out of my way to get a little more context into this new game's overall universe. But if I put myself in the boots of someone who is new to this series and the previously mentioned charming bullshit, I can completely get why a few reveals and story elements may prove a little hard to understand. It'd be like saying, hey, wanna play this new Final Fantasy game? Well, you gotta watch the anime and movie so things make a little more sense. Oh wait, that is something that happened. But with all of that out of the way, let's begin. Right out of the gate, Automata gifts us with a few lines of dialogue that raise a lot of interesting questions. Everything that lives is designed to end. We are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. Is this a curse, or some kind of punishment? I often think about the god who blessed us with this cryptic puzzle, and wonder if we'll ever get the chance to kill him. Now, during this part 1 video, I'll be asking you to remember certain lines, as unfortunately, I can't just explain their relevance at this stage. The sentence I'm going to put a big line under is, I often think about the god who blessed us with this cryptic puzzle, and wonder if we'll ever get the chance to kill him. Note the use of applying gender to this god. Whilst this may not seem important, I believe, thanks to an Automata short story I read, that this may be very intentional. The introduction follows a flight unit sent in to take out something called a Goliath-class machine. The flight unit in question all belong to something called YoRHa, a special group of androids created specifically to fight alien constructed machine lifeforms who have taken over the Earth, over 8,000 to 9,000 years after the original Nier's conclusion. This means that the sketch I made about Emil fighting the aliens in my original Nier analysis actually holds a lot more weight than I originally thought. I did a bit of digging trying to find out what YoRHa stood for, and apparently it doesn't stand for anything. The kanji for it means close leaf, but other than that it's just kind of a cool sounding name, which is in itself a little bit tuny, but whatever, it's cute. The only thing about YoRHa which has some unknown relevance is the capitalization of the letters R and H. Nier had a similar thing too with the capitalized R, but according to a Famitsu interview, that was just for decoration purposes. The R and H in YoRHa, however, are a secret. Maybe now the capitalizations in these titles need to be paid attention to. As to what this means, however, I have absolutely no idea, but I'm gonna wager a guess and say the latter is Heine? Cause woo boy, our main character certainly raised a few eyebrows when her design was first showcased to us. If you honestly thought that I wouldn't bring up this pinnacle of design, then why are you watching this channel? Introducing 2B, one of the main characters of Nier Automata. After her comrades were picked off one by the physical manifestation of the words "fuck you," she sends stylishly flipping out of her flight unit and straight into enemy lines. We're also introduced to Pod 042, another main character who acts like Grimoire Weiss from the original Nier, but intentionally devoid of all personality and ironically voiced by the same guy who did Grimoire Noir. Fun fact. After a brief do-it-yourself tutorial where you're placed in a circular room and your main instinct is to mess up whatever is in said room, we're attacked by our first boss encounter. But shortly after, we're given a very big helping hand by another central character, the scanner-type model of YoRHa known as 9S.
Better make sure he's actually dead next time. That was dangerous, man.
This line right here. Now, I can't tell whether or not it's intentional to events that play out later into the game. In fact, I only noticed it and its potential relevance on this playthrough. I'll return to what I thought the relevance of this line is later, when we return to it in the second ending. So, 2B makes her way through the factory in search for the Goliath class machine, whilst 9S talks to her wirelessly, giving her information about her surroundings or just being an all-around good boy.
I don't usually get a partner. It's kind of fun.
At one stage, whilst 9S is expressing how it feels good to have a partner on his mission, 2B immediately responds back with "emotions are prohibited." This, again, will have some relevance when I explain the stage play to you. After dispatching some cannon fodder and getting distracted by some birds, 2B gets ambushed by the sneakiest little boy in all the land. 9S comes to the rescue, gets fucking bodied, which leads us to one of the main defining moments that this is a Platinum developed game, which just, oh god, it makes my PP feel real good! With 9S in critical condition and 3 other Goliaths appearing who somehow avoided detection on the scanners, 9S and 2B gain permission to self-destruct using something called a black box reaction. Now, a black box is something which is exclusive to a YoRHa type android. Other androids before YoRHa were programmed with traditional AI, which grants them things like emotions and consciousness. Black boxes work almost like a heart and a brain combined, as when a black box is destroyed, that's the end of said android for all intents and purposes. Memories are stored in there, as well as energy which serves to power the android. It appears that when 2B awakens at the bunker, 9S did her the honour of uploading her data to the server, which essentially means when she's put into another replica body, her black box will retain the memories she had before she was detonated. Thankfully, for both of our characters, the bunker, which is located in orbit around the Earth, has plenty of other bodies to put their black boxes into, which means you don't technically die in Automata. Up to a point. We're introduced to the commander of YoRHa and a voice over the tannoy giving the new YoRHa troops some exposition. This disembodied voice is from the Council of Humanity, who are all apparently located on the moon after the aliens sent the machines to conquer Earth. This bit of exposition more than likely confused a lot of original Nier players. How is it possible for humanity to be on the moon if Project Gestalt failed all of those years ago? The first words that popped into my head were retcon, but the game explains why this is the case much later on. He ends his speech with "Glory to mankind," a quote which will be repeated a lot throughout this title. 9S uses this line on 2B, who unfortunately didn't have enough time to upload his own memories to the bunker when he detonated, meaning this is technically his first time meeting 2B. We see her fist clench as he walks away, as I clench my fist due to something completely unrelated to the scene's overall tone.
Finally. Some good fucking food.
The commander tasks us with meeting up with the resistance camp down on Earth and doing some recon. 9S brings up the fact that it's strange that a combat model like 2B would be sent down to do reconnaissance, as his type of model is built for that kind of thing. 2B tells him to shut the fuck up, and bada bing bada boom, they land on Earth. When 2B and 9S make it to the resistance camp, we meet up with a character called Anemone, who had a role in the YoRHa stage play. This resistance camp is where you'll be returning to in order to buy items, accept quests, and get more weapons. The latter from a guy who I swear looks like he's about to lure me into the wilderness to steal my rune skimmy. I've got my eye on you, you fucking cunt, trimming armor for free my ass, fuck off. He's also the first person to make a connection to a Drakengard title, bringing up the fact that Accord from Drakengard 3 is the one who supplies them with weapons. And as nice as this reference is, it raises far too many questions than answers. So is this Accord's main timeline, or is she an unrelated android? Do the androids here know about her abilities, or is she her own unique force? If they do know what she can do, why don't they send her back to gain intel on the aliens' first invasions, or in fact any major event that leads up to the machine war? Who do you work for? Are you the timeline fairy? I guess we'll find out in another game, because Square Enix wants to turn Nier into a franchise! Moving on, we're sent into the desert to take care of some machines.
Scared.
And it's here we learn that machines can talk. 9S assures 2B that their speech doesn't mean anything. However, if your head isn't filled with soup, you may already begin to suspect that there's a lot more going on with the machines than we first assumed. This is only amplified when we reach the fucking Yith pit, where it appears that machines are trying to replicate humans in more ways than just speech. Whilst 9S and 2B are busy slaughtering the machines, the chorus of "This Cannot Continue" begins, as they start to connect to one another, forming a cocoon. This cocoon shits out something very handsome, which at first glance appears very human indeed. Initially, the duo believed this to be an android, but after a quick scan, it appears this is a machine. The machine proves to be a very fast learner, adapting to the android's attacks as the battle goes on. However, it appears that its evolution is too slow for our main characters. This victory is short-lived, as out from the ribs of this machine crawls a twin. Our heroes escape with their lives and report this strange phenomenon to command as soon as they can. The android's next objective is to find some Yorha troops that went missing. Their black box signals lead us to even more strange machine activity. The machines that are collected in this renovated theme park are non-hostile for the most part, and are trying to replicate the human activity of having fun. Slamming the brakes on the fun train on one certain machine introduces us to an item that will eventually become crucial to the game, known as a machine core. Something I find incredibly interesting about machine cores is the fact that its structure is similar to that of a plant cell. When we reach our destination, we also reach a point in the game where the OST is elevated from good to fucking phenomenal. This boss I felt was the best time to bring up this gorgeous OST, as it's a boss that times many of its attack patterns to the music that plays throughout. It's no shock to me whatsoever that the soundtrack would win Best OST at the Game Awards. However, it would appear that despite winning said award, it doesn't make it good enough to have a single song played during the orchestra segments. What the fuck ever, I guess? As well as choreographing her techniques, it appears that this particular machine has one clear goal in mind, and that's to become beautiful. Gathering androids and devouring them, or using them as accessories, or in the case of many of the captives in this room, kept alive as ornaments, only dying in the process when the songstress is finally taken out. Defeating this broken machine leads us to a very unusual encounter. A machine with a white flag appears before us, thanking us for defeating the previous opponent and invites us to visit its village. Despite obvious skepticism, they follow it for the sole purpose of gathering data. Along the way, 2B notices something in the distance. 9S tells her that these are supplies being sent to the humans on the moon and the androids in the bunker. Making it to the machine's village introduces us to a non-playable main character named Pascal, a personal favourite of mine and leader of this village. It being a society of pacifist machines cut off from the network. Pascal, out of every single machine we encounter, minus the humanoids, is by far the most unique. I find this strange. Almost all of the machines and automata come across physically as very similar. Even if they're bigger or have different parts, you can still tell they share a lot of similar design traits. Firstly is the voice actress playing him.
Well, anyway, my name is Pascal. I'm the leader of this village.
I'm guessing the reasoning behind giving Pascal very noticeable vocal emotion is because out of every machine in the game, Pascal gets the most time in the spotlight. So of course you'd want a unique voice for that character so that when shit hits the fan, they can emote accordingly and affect us as an audience member. I brought this up in my shorter review of Automata, so I'll probably be repeating myself, but I think the idea of making machines look similar is to test us, and how we can empathise with these life forms who look mostly all the same. Can we empathise with these machines when none of them can even emote properly, I believe this is completely intentional. To bring it into perspective, would you have a tougher time killing this machine if it had a facial expression? When seconds before bringing your sword down into its skull, it gave off a twisted look of fear. We as human beings rely on expression more than you think. The game proves that machines are conscious beings, but something tells me you'd have an easier time killing this than this. And remember what I said about Pascal having a voice actress despite being gendered as male? This brings up the idea of identity within Automata. Now, we're no stranger to male characters in Nier having female voice actresses, but Pascal's is important because no one ever questions his gender despite his feminine sounding voice in both languages. Same can be said for the two sibling machines found in the village, our only way of distinguishing their genders being the bows on their heads. Take those bows off and they're the exact same as every other machine we find in the game. Within this village, we see machines trying to find their own identity and roles, going from a hive-minded network to freedom and individuality. Are they only replicating this because this is something that humans have been documented as doing, or is it simply wanting to separate themselves from the pack? This idea of identity also passes down onto our android friends. Despite not having genitals, androids can gain sexual organs if they choose. This also includes a fluid which resembles semen, and some can even imitate pregnancies. This all came from Yoko Taro in the Nier Automata strategy guide Q&A. And other than this being another way for androids to resemble humanity in every way, it's also another way for these characters to feel like an individual rather than a basic Ken doll. It's shown later on that a character known as 6-0, an operator who relays orders to 2B, is shown to have romantic feelings towards a female android, which brings up the question about whether or not androids are born with a sexuality, can choose for themselves, or simply love another due to their personalities alone. Considering how androids can choose their own parts, is the idea of gender, sexuality, or male and female identity void in the world of Automata? It's something to think about. I mean, to be fair, I doubt even bigots would fault 6-0 for finding this attractive. She sees a 3-course meal in front of her and she gets hungry. What can I say? Anyways, Pascal informs us that the androids at the resistance camp have known about them for a while now, and have even started to trade with the village due to their pacifism. However, 2B and 9S get the news that Goliath-class machines are rampaging in the abandoned city. Using their flight units to take them down, after defeating the last one standing, it gets in a bit of a tiz, revealing something that took me and the commander of Yorha by complete surprise. The aliens that made the machines have been hiding underground. We're ordered to immediately gather intel, as defeating the aliens could potentially stop the war once and for all. 2B and 9S go deeper and deeper underground, until they eventually reach a strange room. It's here where the aliens' true form is revealed to us, and okay, we're really doing this. We're going for like the aliens and the little flying saucers. We're not gonna make them a little intimidating, just like prunes left out in the fucking sun. I'll be real for a moment and say I didn't expect them to legitimately show the aliens in Automata, but lo and behold, they proved me wrong. My witch's cackle could be heard far and wide when this particular scene showed up. I seriously couldn't help myself. My laughter, however, had to wait, as the two humanoid machines make their second appearance. The one crawling from the first ribcage sporting a different look. They call themselves Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve are yet another pair of red-eyed, light-haired twins from the Drake and Nier franchise. The reason for their birth at this point, ambiguous. It's also revealed that the aliens were wiped out centuries ago by none other than the machines. The aliens, according to Adam and Eve, were infantile, almost childlike. Almost like plants. But the humans on the moon, those prove infinitely more fascinating to the machines than their deceased creators. Beings who would love and hate in equal measure, who would kill countless of their own kind. They want to find these humans, dissect them, and bring all of their secrets out for all the world to see. I feel that now I'm talking about Adam and Eve, I want to take a moment to speak about the series and its ongoing theme of light-haired twins. In Drakengard 1, we had Sere and Mana. In Drakengard 3, we had One and Brother One. And in Automata, we have Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve share more in common with One and Brother One than Sere and Mana. Brother One being born from the rib of One, and Eve being born from the ribs of Adam. Another connection that Eve will bring into light later is the Cult of the Watchers logo. Brother One created this logo that will eventually be the flag of the infamous cult. And after a crucial event in Automata, we see Eve grow this logo on his chest. Now, according according to some information I dug up, this is simply due to Adam requesting that Eve have the tattoo, and I really wonder if that's all it is. If it's nothing but a reference to the Drakengard series, what an incredibly lore-crucial reference that is. What a coincidence that two twins who share similar physical qualities as the catalysts of the cult would adopt their logo. I'll go into more detail about why this is disappointing to me later, but for now I feel like pointing out the similarities. What is it with you and twins? Why did you make these two so fucking sexy? Adam cosplayers, hit me up. So lonely. Adam and Eve disappear, leaving us with two important pieces of information. The aliens are dead and humanity could be in danger. We report this to the bunker, and we're sent on another reconnaissance mission to gather more information from Pascal, essentially finding out as much about machine life forms from him as possible. One piece of information that Pascal tells us interests me. The idea that the machines didn't get a message from their alien overlords in centuries, meaning that it wasn't a collaborative effort to kill their masters, rather ones who had cut themselves off from the machine network. He also tells us that there's another group of machines who are cut off from the network like his village, residing in a place called the Forest Kingdom. These machines have attempted to create a nation with a king at its center. Now how can such an event be ignored? When 2B and 9S reach the entrance to the Forest Kingdom, they engage a few machine life forms guarding it. However, one of them starts acting rather strange.
It's going to explode!
Oh hey Emil.
Hey there, guys! What's up?
Let's kill it!
And away he goes, that's all we're getting folks. No sooner than fucking Emil, a central character from the original Nier, is introduced, he scurries off. Now don't worry, we'll be seeing Emil some more throughout our travels. He serves primarily as a vendor in Automata, selling pieces of scrap he's found in the thousands of years he's remained alive on Earth. However, he also serves a much bigger purpose. But we won't be revisiting our old friend until much later into this video series.
Stuck as a virgin with bread.
During our adventures into the Forest Kingdom, we come across machines who are feverishly trying to stop our advances in order to protect their king. Turns out this is because their king appears to be an infant. No sooner than 2B and 9S notice this, however, this rundown-looking baby-slaughtering android is named A2, otherwise known as Number 2, back when she was the main character of the YoRHa stage play. There are so many things I can't wait to go into with A2, as she's by far one of the most interesting characters in this game when it comes to the side content, and a potential theory which relates her back to the original game. Since I recognise that this video is me setting up the stage for the big reveals, I'll drop this info from the stage play so you can speculate amongst yourselves. A2's memories were taken from the memories of a young girl who lived a happy life with her grandmother. For now though, she serves as an obstacle for 2B and 9S, as she's wanted by YoRHa for a classified reason. Predictably, she escapes, her whereabouts becoming unknown to us until later into the game. After this, we're sent to do a spot of guard duty for the Resistance in the flooded city, a part of the city which has sunken into the ocean due to the bedrock becoming unstable. This leads us into a small aerial fight where 2B takes down an aerial Goliath, but just as she does,
I'm still picking up a large enemy presence. What on? If it's that big, we should be able to see it.
incredible! You'd think they'd be like used to this by now? Like the fact that machines are underwater is somehow this foreign concept? All they really need to do is... Oh, I found them. Make me an android.
Give me that tight robot pussy.
So here's a boss in Automata I can't stand. Every playthrough I've done of this game so far, I always dread getting up to this moment because it's so fucking boring. If you look back at my Drakengard 3 videos, you'll remember me saying that the flight sections were dull and lacked any substance. In Automata, I'll admit the flight segments are more interesting in terms of gameplay, but holy shit is it ever easy. All you need to do is swing your big old laser dick around and bing bang boom, you pretty much won every fight due to physical attacks cancelling out the aerial projectiles as well as damaging the enemy in the process. If I had to pick something negative about Automata as a whole, I'd definitely say the flight unit segments are the worst offender to me. Firstly, due to Automata's colour palette being fairly monotone, it doesn't give your eyes much to focus on when this particular boss crops up, because virtually everything you're looking at is grey. Even the boss itself loses all impact when it turns out you aren't fighting this, rather a few golden orbs on its body which serves as its weak point. Gameplay! I wish I could say the flight unit doesn't last that long, but unfortunately it outstayed its welcome by around 5 minutes, which made mouth-fucking it with a cannon all the more satisfying. We watch 9S bring this already fixated boss fight to a close by hacking into a missile and exploding in its mouth, only to be bodied yet again and sent flying off into an unspecified location. So considering how 9S was launched to god knows where after the explosion, 2B runs around the city placing missing child posters on any wall she can find, and heads to the resistance camp for further assistance. It's here she's introduced to a couple of androids who share the same appearance and names as 2 older characters from the first title. The twins, along with Emil, are really only here to make you wonder what their eventual purpose will be, as apart from giving Pod 042 a method of tracking down 9S's black box signal, Deviler and Popola won't hold any significance during ending A. Using this scanner, she revisits the cave system that opened up in the same area where she encountered Adam and Eve, and comes across a very peculiar sight. This white city, according to Pod 042, is a city composed of crystallized silicon and carbon, its creator bringing himself into the spotlight a few minutes later. Adam, who has separated himself from his brother Eve, confronts 2B, claiming to be fascinated by mankind and wanting to embody the very essence of humanity itself, which, in his mind, is conflict. He brings up the fact that machines who are connected to the network are essentially immortal. However, despite this, there isn't a single flicker of being. By that, he means no single machine connected to the network can truly be called alive. And so, with no more than a flick of a wrist, he disconnects himself from the network, ready to die in battle in order to feel close to the humanity he craves. After a short exchanging of words, 2B's all, "Have you seen my son?" And Adam's like, "Oh, 9S, you mean this boy I pinned to the wall like Jesus Christ? Yeah, I might have seen him. Symbolic, don't you think? I'm going to kiss him now."
Just protecting their baby.
This is the last physical appearance of Adam. He dies a very human death, something which is dark and cold. 2B Princess carries 9S back to safety as the copied city crumbles around them. With this, 9S is sent back to the bunker to undergo repairs, and a commander calls 2B to congratulate her on taking down Adam, a machine that was apparently responsible for managing over half of the machine's network. We're sent to talk to Pascal again about whether or not there has been any new trends and behaviours amongst the machines. Pascal tells us there's a group of machines who have recently disconnected from the network who wish to make a peace treaty with his village, as they're starting their own colony inside the abandoned factory. 2B agrees to meet with Pascal so they can both investigate this peace treaty together, though both of them admit to each other that this whole thing seems a bit suspicious. And sure enough...
Hello. My name is Pascal. I'm here to discuss the peace treaty.
His wondrous grace has become a god.
If I had to name a few tracks that really caught my attention, there's the aforementioned song that plays during the events of Ending A, and there's Become As Gods. Let's just say you'll know exactly when this song starts. This entire segment was a major moment in the first ending path which gripped me by the testicles and wouldn't let go. These machines are replicating the more extreme actions of humanity when it comes to religion. This isn't really something which needed explaining. However, in the context of Automata, becoming a god isn't what we may assume it to be. Becoming a god in the eyes of these machines could symbolize becoming human. The more the network became fascinated with the idea of humanity, the more they came to idolize them, and in many cases, worship them. After Adam became more fascinated with the idea of violence and death being an integral part of what it means to be human, perhaps this is what this subset of machines took away from it after they disconnected. That death, in any form, will bring them closer to being human, or feeling what humans feel. But then again, this is my interpretation. It could literally be nothing more than religion makes you do really fucking stupid things.
The banana and the hand are perfectly made one for the other. You'll find the maker of the banana, Almighty God, has made it with a non-slip surface.
2B and Pascal make it out of a factory alive with the help of 9S, who hacked into a nearby machine from the bunker, which leads us to a cutscene of Eve, who, in his grief, causes the tattoo on his right arm to go out of control. It's not long at all before we start to see the repercussions of this. The machines in the area begin to go berserk, reacting to Eve's gradual insanity at the loss of his brother, some of them even going after the androids in the resistance camp and eating them alive. However, them going berserk is what we would first assume. According to Taro, machines being passive is actually the irregularity, so rather than going berserk, they're simply being returned to their original function, to destroy androids. Whilst 2B is being pinned down by a Goliath we fought before, 9S crash lands to save the day as they team up to answer an SOS call from Pascal. After the threat has been neutralized, we're given one of my favorite musical changes in the game.
You saved us! Oh, thank you so much!
What happened here?
The machines on the network all went berserk at the same moment. I think the unit presiding over them may have gone mad.
Eve has completely lost his mind after losing Adam. Whilst Adam saw Eve as another part of himself, Eve saw them both as individuals, Adam being his sibling rather than another version of himself. Essentially, the manager of the machine network was split into two beings, and quite obviously, one cannot coexist well without the other. Are you okay? The voice actor of Eve, Ray Chase, does the character such justice here that you can feel Eve's agony in his performance alone.
Nothing matters anymore! I'll erase you! I'll erase everything!
As the battle escalates, 9S has an idea. He'll hack into Eve in order to give 2B a chance of finishing him off. The plan succeeds, and yet again the fantastic music direction makes Eve's final moments all the more heavy-hitting. With Eve destroyed, 2B thinks the battle is over. However, nothing is ever that easy. 9S has contracted something called a logic virus, a virus which is exclusive to Yorha troops and will eventually cause the afflicted to become berserk. The most interesting trait of a logic virus is the sufferer's glowing red eyes. Now, if you look back into Drake and Nier's history, glowing red eyes are never ever a good sign, and something I brought up in my original Nier analysis is the red eye disease. Yoko Taro confirmed that the logic virus is indeed related to this disease, something which has only ever been known to affect humans has somehow adapted itself into affecting androids. Could this be something as simple as the disease adapting, or could this be the result of experimentation on androids? One thing is for sure, and that's not a single unit who has the virus can have their data uploaded back into the bunker, or the virus will spread throughout Yorha. This means their memories will be reset in the process. 2B now has to put a slowly degrading 9S out of his misery. She puts her hands around his neck and puts an end to his life. 2B, enraged about what she needed to do, is about to take out her anger on a machine that appears to still be alive. But before she skewers its brain out, it turns out that 9S managed to put his consciousness inside one of the machine corpses that were lying nearby. He takes her up in his hands as 2B reflects on what separates a machine from an android, and how their final screams they let out before their deaths still echo within her. And with that, we see the credits begin for Ending A. This is also a point in the game where a good portion of games journalists decided, you know what, despite getting a personal message from Square Enix themselves telling me not to stop playing the game since it's still 50% of the game to complete, I'm gonna stop right here. Time to write my review! The game was too short for my liking, though I must say the Dark Souls reference was a really nice touch. Wahoo, as Mario always says. I'll be covering the other endings in the next video. As the message from Square Enix implied, there's still so much more game left for me to cover, and I tried my best to get Ending A into one video. Who knows how many parts this series will be, but one thing is for sure, and that's how Ending A is really setting up future events of Nier Automata. Things which ultimately are much more imposing than Adam and Eve. Before I end this, I know this video is something that a lot of people have been wanting me to do since Automata's release, and I need to say a huge thank you for being so patient. As a lot of you have seen from my previous content, Yoko Taro has a tendency to add a lot of side content, and by that I mean For example, the original Nier had 2 versions of the same game whose main character had differing ages depending on which version you chose. A book called Grimoire Nier which included 10 novellas about the game's universe and characters. A drama CD with even more important pieces of information about the world. A book which is exclusive to the Drakengard 10th Anniversary Collector's Box for Drakengard 3, which turns out includes a short story which would later prove integral to the plot of Nier Automata. Need I go on? I don't even need to mention the stage play, but I do need to mention the new stage play. I swear to God, the very day I was seriously planning on starting the analysis, I hear the news that there will be another stage play based around the boys of Yorha in 2018. It's as if he gets off on delaying these videos even more. I'm on to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all again for part 2. For those of you interested, why not help me out on Patreon? This analysis is proving much bigger than I initially anticipated, so any support for me in my future endeavours would be greatly appreciated. Go check out the rewards found via the link below. Also, a nice fuzzy thank you to Volta Base who redesigned Big Banter's original Clemps pose for the thumbnail. And trust me, I only wish my arms looked that good.